thought it was good. There were only like one or two questions where I was like, oh, I forgot about that one.
There were like only a couple questions where I was like, what was my question here? I've written way too much.
But yeah, that was great.
Welcome to the Front Porch with Brian Beaudry.
I'd like to welcome today's guest, Record360's CEO, Abby Chao.
Hello.
Abby, welcome to the Front Porch.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Good. Let's start with the basics. Who are you? Where are you from? And is there a food item that you no longer allow yourself to eat? If so, why not?
Let's see. So my name is Abby. I am originally from the Chicago suburbs. I should add for our Dallas-based friends, I was originally born in Houston, but I moved to the Chicago suburbs when I was probably 2 years old. So grew up in the Chicago suburbs. And now I live in Santa Cruz, California, which is about an hour and a half south of San Francisco.
Okay.
Yep. And is there a food item that I don't allow myself to have?
Yeah.
My kryptonite is probably Oreos.
Okay.
And so we do not have Oreos in the house.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where if you know they're in the house, that you'll eat them like very quickly.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly. Yeah. And that's not good for anyone.
Yeah.
Nobody needs to see my sugar rush and crash. So.
Okay, I can relate to that one. What did you want to be when you were a kid? Whenever you remember first having the answer for the question, you know, every adult seems to ask a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah, I'm sure I had all kinds of outlandish things. The thing that I remember most is wanting to be a novelist or a writer. And so I would actually say I still hang on to that dream. And so maybe one day when I'm retired, I will write a novel. But
what style, what genre are you going for with your novels?
It's a good question. I think when I was a kid, it was more realistic fiction. But I read all kinds of stuff.
Like realistic current or like realistic, like
present.
Historical type stuff?
Present,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but you're not necessarily going to write that these days.
We'll see. I've recently spent a bunch of time reading memoirs. So maybe that would be an easier medium because at least there's, the fact base of real life to build off of. But then I'm also plagued with the need to actually be interesting, which seems harder than making it up.
Well, yeah, you can always use like reality as a launch pad for just embellishing. I think there's definitely a genre where it's like you have the unreliable narrator where it's like, is everything in this true?
That might suit me. Yeah.
All right. So at what point did you decide, let's not write a novel. Let's do something else instead?
Yeah, I would say I was a huge nerd growing up. And I went to a really interesting public boarding school that was focused on math and science. And while I was there, I did a pitch competition, and I don't even remember what I pitched, but I won some award for the pitch competition, and it was probably some nerdy tech thing that I pitched. And I think after that, I thought, this is pretty cool. Entrepreneurship seems pretty fun. Business seems pretty interesting. And so, it was off to the races after that.
I was going to say, that seems to be like kind of how it works when you get that reinforcement of like, this is very positive. If you like did not win any awards, you probably would have been like, all right, never mind.
Or if I got last place, I'd be like, this is terrible. I hate business. So.
Business is stupid.
Exactly.
All right. You mentioned that you wanted your story to be interesting. And it seems like it would be interesting. Although I will say that that when I was looking through your LinkedIn, I was like, this definitely sounds like the resume of a tech CEO, especially like living in, Northern California. I'll say the Bay Area, but the Bay Area can expand or shrink depending on whether you want it to be in the Bay Area or not. So there's no way we're going to go through a whole job by job breakdown of your entire career history. So I'm just going to ask about some of the highlights. You did a bunch of internships in 2009, 2010 area. What one would you say impacted you the most?
Yeah, I think in that time period, I was in college. I was just exploring a bunch of different things, lots of interesting experiences. I explored government, explored investing. Probably the thing that influenced me the most was I had an internship in a corporate development team within a company called Internet Brands, where literally my job was to scour the internet for websites that I thought maybe they should buy. Um, and I think that was influential because it was the first time that I sort of did something that had a focus on the consumer internet and how all of that works. And I think ever since then, the internet has been a huge part of my career. It's kind of funny to say that now because of course everything is on the
Yeah.
internet, but that was my first foray into that versus previously I was much more interested in sort of harder sciences maybe.
Yeah.
And so I think that really impacted my trajectory.
Okay. So when you're like looking for internet brands, is it just like, what are you doing there?
Oh, it was such a fascinating niche of the internet. So basically, what they did was they owned content properties. And so that could include anything from, if today, think of things like NerdWallet, or even back in the day, there were a lot of forums that had a lot of engagement. And the
Yeah.
idea was basically this company, Internet Brands, would monetize that content by putting ads or whatever it was on it. So um, it it's also what got me into a lot of an understanding of the marketing that happens on the internet and why metrics like traffic and page views, time on page, all of those things matter.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds definitely interesting to go look into everyone else's stats.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you got your Stanford MBA and you worked at Goldman Sachs and McKinsey, which I feel like, yeah. What happened in 2016 that you co-founded your first business, College Backer? Did you just have like a crisis where you're like, oh no, I'm becoming a cliche. I'm this Ivy Plus kid that's in these two things that I know are definitely like the places that you go with an MBA?
I'm totally aware that I am 100% a stereotype. But yeah, I think that a big part of it was I thought of those steps as sort of my continuing education. So places like Goldman or McKinsey are places where, as a 20-something-year-old, you get to sit in boardrooms and other places where you really have no business being, but you have an opportunity to learn from all of these incredible people and leaders around you. And so for me, that felt really important. And then at a certain point, I think I said, okay, I'm ready to do something on my own. And I was really excited to find this opportunity around College Backer, where it was a space that I was really passionate about, fintech, education, financial inclusion. And so that was just a blast to work on for a few years.
Okay, well, first, now I want to circle back around. So you mentioned like the rooms that you didn't belong. Is this a thing that you felt at the time that you're like, I can't believe I'm in these rooms? Or is this a thing where you look back and you're like, I can't believe they let like a 20-something-year-old into these things?
I would say both. Yeah, both are true. So I think when I showed up in those places, I certainly was the person who, knew the least in the room. And I remember, I think in those experiences, I gained a lot of confidence because I learned that, hey, because I've done the work, I actually have some pretty interesting things to share with these, CEOs of public companies and other large, influential leaders. But even today, I look back and I'm like, I was 23 at the time. What did I know?
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad that it helped you, build confidence instead of being one of those things where you're just like constantly not sure that you belong. So when you were at McKinsey, it seems like you were in the social sector. You were a social sector fellow working on schools. Was what you were focused on there related to College Backer, or was that totally separate?
It was pretty separate. So at McKinsey, I spent most of my time doing normal private sector stuff. But in my last year at McKinsey, I had the opportunity to focus specifically on education-related topics. That was mostly public school districts, K-12 school districts, and also education foundations and other sorts of interventions like that. A little bit of ed tech too. That was always fun. For College Backer, it was not part of that K-12 universe, so it was a little bit different. But I think a lot of the things that I learned while I was in the social sector fellowship and just learning about the education landscape helped influence College Backer and realize, all the different inequities that exist in the education system.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit more about College Backer? I have a daughter that I'm trying to prepare for some college stuff, but looking at some of the stuff that I saw online, I was like, I need to know more about this. So can you tell me a little bit more about what College Backer is?
Yeah, I'll say we've since rebranded to Backer, so we should call it Backer. Yep.
Okay.
But essentially, what we did and what the business still does today is we help families crowdfund their college fund. So there are basically two components to that. First is we help you find a great 529 plan. This is a tax-advantaged account for saving for college. So think of it sort of similar to a retirement account, but for college.
Yeah.
So we help you navigate that universe and find a great plan for you. And then beyond that, we help you fund it. So I'm now a new parent. I have a 10-month-old at home. I already realize that people are constantly giving us like stuff that we don't necessarily need. And the idea behind College Backer is, hey, let the friends and family around you support you through gifts directly into your college fund. So, at the baby shower or at an early birthday, instead of just getting toys and clothes, you can also gift a contribution into the kids' college fund that goes directly into the 529. And then if you have family members, aunts and uncles, grandparents who want to make a regular contribution, you can also set up monthly payments, biweekly, whatever it is that makes sense for you.
Nice. That sounds really efficient rather than, going back every month and saying like, hey, can you throw some money?
Exactly.
All right. So again, we mentioned that there's this long LinkedIn thing. Internships, again, it's totally normal to be exploring and doing a new thing, but a lot of people kind of settle down as soon as they're getting, but it seems like you had like all these interests and you wanted to participate in all these things. How do you get into all of these new things?
Yeah, I think that I've always just been curious and I've had these itches that I've wanted to scratch. And so, as I mentioned early in college, I was curious about government. So I found an opportunity to go volunteer at City Hall. Yeah. More recently, in some of the time that I had before going to business school, I'd worked in tech for so many years, but I didn't really understand the technology behind it. And so I went and did a coding boot camp and had great fun with that. So I think for me, it's just always been about scratching those itches and, finding interesting opportunities to learn something new and do something new.
All right. Yeah, I can definitely respect the let's go find more fun things to play around with, especially if you've got all these interests. So you were at, it was called ASG. You were the CEO of 3 companies at the same time, which seems tiring. So that was like Package Route, eCourier, and Record360. What were some of the challenges with trying to manage 3 different companies at the same time?
Yeah, I would say, as you can imagine, time management was something that became very important to me and being very deliberate about my schedule. And I also think it's always a challenge to context switch that much between different organizations. But at the end of the day, it was possible because I had amazing teams in each of those businesses. Otherwise, I think it just would have been impossible. And I think just finding the right people to work with, trusting those people, and allowing them to make the decisions was a big part of it. And really, I saw my role as making sure that we had the right people on the team and helping coalesce around a longer term strategy for each of those businesses.
Awesome. And then, like, relatively recently, you just chose Record360. So is it like you get to choose your favorite among the 3, or how did that work?
So recently at the Record360 offsite, somebody actually asked Wayne who his favorite child was. And he very politically, or diplomatically, I should say, he very diplomatically did not answer the question. And so I feel a little bit similar in that, I can't choose my favorite
but
among
you
the
chose
businesses,
one
but
to remain the CEO of, so.
But yeah, I think I was very, very fortunate to stay on with Record360. It's an absolutely incredible team. an amazing growth trajectory. And so I love just spending time with them every day. And I think it's been amazing to be able to focus on one business as well. I think people will tell you about me that I tend to be the person who is driving within these businesses to focus. And ironically, I was the one who was split across a bunch of different things. And so it's a huge relief and fantastic to be able to focus on Record360.
Awesome. So I didn't have this in my questionnaire, but with you being in Record360, with you having done all this coding stuff, with you having like all these interests that are all really tied in with Record360, like what is it that you're most excited about, like as far as what Record360 does?
Yeah, I mean, I would say two things. One, I think from a sales and marketing perspective, we've just gotten a lot of things to start working. And so I'm really excited about where we just go from a growth trajectory perspective. And then two, on the product side, this quarter, we have been working on our first AI feature, blur detection. And that, I think, is going to be just the beginning of a whole new sort of era with Record360, where we continue to push the envelope in terms of technology for our industries. We're really proud of the fact that we are the best-in-class tool for our space, and we are the people who are introducing new technology to our customers. And I think this is just an exciting frontier for us to be able to do that again.
Awesome. So what's blur detection?
So essentially, one of the things that we found was that while, of course, a central part of doing an inspection is you're taking photos and videos, right? Yep. And the quality of those photos really matters because you're using those photos to illustrate damage or the lack thereof. Yep. One of the challenges we saw was that oftentimes, somebody takes a photo and it's just not a great photo. And that then becomes a problem because if you need to show that, the equipment was in good condition when it went out for rent and now it's not, having a blurry photo is not going to help. Yep. And so what we're launching today, or what we will be launching, is a feature that at first nudges the user to say, hey, this photo's looking a little blurry, you might want to retake it. And I think that's just going to be the beginning of helping us identify great photos from photos that you might need to reevaluate and build more of these tools that allow you to take consistent, high-quality inspections, really collect the data that you need in those photos and videos, which I think will be a huge value to our customers.
Okay. So you're basically saying, hey, if you're going to do these inspections, you do them right.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I have some suggestions for some potential like nudge, like voice or some text for those. Be like, man, are you taking pictures of Bigfoot out here or what? This picture's terrible.
Love that.
Okay. I know if we look back through my job history, I had a lot of jobs before finding Point of Rental. Now it seems like you're able to handle a lot of different jobs at the same time. Are you kind of thinking like, oh yeah, I found my spot with Record360?
I think so. And I think, as I was saying before, I personally do believe a lot in the power of focus. And I think that the ability to focus on Record360 has just been fantastic.
Okay. You also mentioned that you had like a 10-month-old. Has that also played? Because it's like, I know like once you have a kid, it's like, okay, I require a certain amount of focus to go here. Like that's going to take up some time.
That is definitely my other focus these days. So, focusing on one company, but this child is, just as much work as another one.
Yes. It's a good lesson for the kids to know. Exactly. Just as much work as an entire company. Okay, before we get into your non-professional life, I want to play a game with you. I've changed the name of it before letting you know. This is now going to be called Abby or Ab Not to Be.
Amazing.
If you agree with it, say Abby. If you disagree with it, say Ab Not to Be. And then I'll need a reason afterwards. Okay. So, Abby or Ab Not to Be, you cry at movies.
Ab Not to Be. I am a person who is very slow to cry. The one movie that I'll cut that because I can't even remember what movie it is that I cried in.
I was going to say, if you don't have the name of it, then it's not as impactful. I was like, yes. that beginning of like Up, though, you have to cry at that, I thought.
I don't think I cried during that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. All right. Abby or Ab Not to Be, you've cheated at a board game.
I don't think that I've ever cheated at a board game. And in fact, all of my friends know that I really hate board games that require lying because it just tears me up to to play games like that, where, you're trying to trick someone or whatnot. So I don't know. I just really struggle with that.
Yeah, those are definitely not fun games for people that can't lie. It's like,
Exactly.
okay, well,
I just get really stressed.
why are we rewarding lying? This is not a good thing to encourage amongst people. All right, Abby or not to be, you've told an outrageous lie to a child. I was going to say your kid's only 10 months, so you don't have to start the lies yet, I don't think.
Yeah, I would say maybe an ab not to be, unless you consider, Santa Claus and
Whoa. Don't.
Is this a kid-friendly podcast? Because I need to censor myself.
It's marked as not for kids on YouTube because of situations like that where we spoil things. Okay, Abby or ab not to be, your favorite fast food fries are from McDonald's.
I'll say Abby. Yeah.
Okay.
But my especially hot take
Okay.
is that I'm not a huge potato person. So
Wow.
I'm actually just not a huge fan of fries.
Okay, that's alarming. I have to judge you now because potatoes are definitely high up on my list of like elite foods. So, okay, Abby or ab not to be, you have an embarrassing nickname or a nickname that you hate.
Of course. So Abby on that one. I think the best one is my full name is Abigail. And I think it was in college where someone realized that if you, change one letter of that, if I've done something stupid, I would get a Abifail.
Yeah, I can see that one not being particularly beloved by you.
Yeah, so it goes. Sometimes I deserve it, so it's okay.
Okay, well, I will not call you that.
Thank you.
And let's take a little break before we get into the personal side of things questions.
Perfect.
It takes something special to dive into the unknown, to face the unpredictable, and unlock the mysteries that await beyond. Something tough, reliable, to fuel your confidence where elements seem to conspire to blur your senses. An unwavering ally, relentlessly field tested by the pioneers who ventured there before. It was constantly perfected over time for those who push their limits always further and shine an ever new light on our world. The Point of Rental Goosey.
Okay, in our pre-production, we had a little chat. You gave me some fun facts about yourself. One of the things is that you mentioned that your husband won after years of campaigning to have you all live in Santa Cruz. So what was like the competition? Because that seems like a place that I would want to live.
Yeah, so Santa Cruz is a beautiful place. I think I am inherently a city person. Okay. And so I like the hustle and bustle of the city. I like having, lots of things to do and places to go and having it be really easy to see a bunch of people and friends. So I would say that has been the tension. But since we started dating at this point, 8 or 9 years ago, he has essentially been trying to convince me to move to Santa Cruz.
Okay, and before this, you were in San Francisco, or?
Correct.
Okay, so it was just a case of like we're either staying in the city or we're moving to Santa Cruz.
That's right.
Okay, you also had mentioned, well, actually, first when you mentioned that it was a campaign, I was picturing it's 2024, it's an election year, so I was picturing like there's yard signs in your lawn of like pictures of Santa Cruz, or it's like lo-fi pop-up ads where he has like some travel brochures or something in the books that you're reading at the time. Was there an actual campaign behind this or no?
I guess not dissimilar from modern political campaigns. It was a long campaign, and I think my husband was really playing the long game because when we started I remember the first Valentine's Day that we ever spent together, he took me down to Santa Cruz and tried to give me a surf lesson. So, he was laying the foundation even way back then. And it's just been, a continuous effort ever since then.
All right. Well, I'm glad that he put in the effort. So it seems like he really, really wanted to go there instead of it being just, this seems like it would be nice type situation. Right. You did also mention in our chat that you love surfing. So was this something that you already loved, or was it a situation of like, well, now that I live here in Santa Cruz, I might as well like this thing?
Well, as you got a little bit of in my last answer, I think Justin was laying the foundation there as well. So I did not surf before I met him. But at some point I realized being married to somebody who loves to surf, pretty much any family trip that we are going to go on, he's going to want to go to a surf destination. And I'm not the kind of gal who wants to just sit on the beach. So at some point I said, you know what? I might as well put in the investment so that I can enjoy surfing too.
All right. So what are some places that you've gone surfing, or are you just surfing locally?
Yeah, we've surfed locally. I've also gone surfing in Hawaii, which was great fun. And then many years ago at this point, we also took a trip to Bali, and that was a surf destination. And I think outside of that, a few years ago, I had a good friend get married in Costa Rica, and so we did some surfing there. So
okay, and so just so you're aware, I recently finally watched Point Break, and I just want to make sure that you're not robbing banks before you're going on this surf. That's not how you're financing these trips, right?
No bank robberies just yet. Yeah.
Okay, good. Tell me about your wedding trip, because you had a unique one. First of all, what is a wedding trip, and how is this different than a destination wedding?
Yeah, so we had an interesting situation where, one, we got married during COVID, and so that complicated things. But also, I think just generally, the idea of a traditional wedding wasn't something that appealed to us as much. So we got legally married prior to doing this wedding trip. But what we planned to do instead of having a traditional wedding was we actually just we rented a few beautiful Airbnbs in Mexico. So I guess that was another place that we surfed. And we invited a bunch of our friends to come down and spend a week with us. And the only aspect of that was more of the traditional thing was we did have dinners where we had toasts. So everybody could, say a toast to the bride and groom, so to speak. But outside of that, we just had a lot of quality time with all of those people, which for us was really meaningful because at least, I've been to a bunch of really amazing and fun weddings, but I just imagine for the bride and groom, it's hard to spend quality time with so many people, right? Yeah. And so I think that was something that was really important to us. And then I should also say for people wondering about the families, we also did dinners with each of our families. But for us, it was just such a blast to have these people hanging out with us in Mexico as a real way to celebrate our marriage.
Nice. So did they have to all go surfing with you, or?
It was an option, but I'm pretty sure everyone partook at least a little bit.
Okay. Did you have anyone that attended that you just laughed at them wiping out a lot?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, of course.
Oh, you don't
it's surfing.
you don't want to name names. Okay. Let's talk tennis. You said you were a competitive tennis player in high school. So what were you playing? Singles, doubles, mixed?
I primarily played singles, but then at the very end there, I switched over to doubles.
Okay, and how competitive were you in this? Because you said you're competitive. So,
I would say we were the least. My team was the least qualified at the state championships. So we were.
But if you make it to the state championships, then you're probably pretty good. Especially
we were decent, but we got smoked at the state championships.
Okay, well, yeah, I think our team only made it to regionals when everyone had to make it to regionals, and then we kind of got smoked there. If I'm our team's number one player, then our school is not very good.
It's tough, it's tough.
Yeah. So what would you write if you were writing a scouting report about yourself as a tennis player?
Interesting. I would say, so I was known for getting to third sets. Okay. So it would be something like sometimes a slow start, but slogs it out through the end.
Okay, so you're that person that's going to wear down your opponent. You're just like, I'm in better shape than you. We'll get this to the end.
Grind it out.
Okay, are you like a serve and volley, or are you a baseline rallier? Or
Definitely a baseline rallier, lots of top spin, just keep the ball going.
okay, that does sound exhausting. I don't want to play against you.
Well, now I don't have I really have minimal of those skills or anymore, and I now just think about how good I used to be and get frustrated, and so so it goes.
It also feels so much worse, like when you go back. I tried to start teaching my daughter to play some tennis, and I like hit a couple of serves. I was like,
Exactly. Yeah,
horrible.
real sore the next day. It's
Yeah.
just
All right, so you stopped playing after high school then, or did you keep
pretty
playing in
much.
college?
Yeah, I play for fun occasionally, but
Okay. You also said that you were tricked into climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, and I feel like you got to know at what point do you notice that you're climbing? Because like you're in America, you have to go all the way to Africa, you have to get there, and you're obviously climbing it. I mean,
yeah, I think maybe in retrospect, a better word would have been guilted or coerced.
Okay.
And so basically what happened was I had a very good friend who was taking some time off of her very intense finance job and had talked to me about, hey, she's going to go spend some time in Europe, and then, maybe she would go to Tanzania and climb Kilimanjaro, and wouldn't that be cool? And I was like, yes, that would be cool. And then the next time that we caught up, she said, oh my gosh, I'm so disappointed. A bunch of the girls that I was going to travel in Europe with, they've bailed, and, it's such a bummer. But you're still in for Kilimanjaro, right? And I was like, yeah, of course. Yeah, I wouldn't do that to you. And so, a couple weeks later, I'm climbing a mountain.
I was going to say you didn't offer to be like, I'll do the touring around Europe thing.
That's true. Maybe I should have taken that up. Yeah.
So how did you prepare for this once you've like committed?
Yeah, fortunately, Kilimanjaro is the easiest of, mountains like that, and you don't need particular special training. It's mostly just a long hike.
Yeah.
And so I think at that time, I was in my early mid-20s. I was reasonably fit anyway.
Yeah.
So most of the preparation was getting all the gear that you need to survive at Mountain Summit.
Okay. Yeah. I remember being in my 20s and being like, yeah, I don't have to train for whatever. I can go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I feel less that way now.
So that didn't make you decide to get a love of mountaineering, and you're not going to go climb a bunch more?
She then tried to get me to just do base camp at Everest, and I gave her a hard no on that.
Okay, you couldn't be guilted into that one. It's
Absolutely not.
Okay,
I've done my time.
It's like, no, you got me on one mountain.
That's right.
Okay, what's something that people misunderstand about you?
I think that the only thing that really comes to mind is I think that I'm actually quite an inherently introverted person. And so a lot of times when I come into a new space, let's say just hypothetically a 200 plus person on site, I might be a little shy, but I am actually really excited to get to know you. And I am a one-on-one person. And so I love having those conversations and really getting to know people.
All right, well, good. I'm also a one-on-one conversation, which is why I tried to book all these, and then it's like, then I can just hide off in my room instead of having everyone walk by my desk.
There you go.
Do you have any questions for me? I get to ask a lot of you, but you only get to ask one.
What is the craziest thing that has ever happened in the studio?
What's happened in this studio? Well, I mean, it flooded once, so there was that. When Dallas-Fort Worth froze over a few years ago, apparently there's like a water pipe just behind these cameras over here.
Yikes.
And it froze over and it burst through, and yeah, this whole area was flooded. And that's why like the power strip and all that stuff is up on the wall, because we're like, let's not have this happen again. Okay, so normally we go on to the 5 important questions, but I do have another additional section that we've added, which is called First Pitch. So if you had to start a rental business in the next month, so you don't have time to like come up with a whole plan. Well, maybe you do have time to come up with a whole plan. You seem like you're able to plan pretty well. But anyway, you have to start a rental business in the next month. What is it going to be? What are you renting?
The first thing that came to mind was renting some private jets, because then I would get to ride on a private jet. I've never been on one, but I've heard they're pretty cool.
Okay.
And I do travel a lot, so that seems like it'd be a good perk.
All right, that's good. That also seems like a good high value item that you
There
can
you go.
definitely. Okay, well, good luck with your
Thank
rental,
you.
your plane rental business. We're ready for your top 5 list. So I hope you
Okay.
have your top 5 list. We're gonna count down from 5 to 1 because no one cares once you've told everyone you're number 1. And you said your list was gonna be on memoirs. Is that correct?
Yes, that is right.
Okay, so what is your 5th highest rated memoir of all time?
Let's see. I would say number 5, let's go with Open by Andre Agassi. So we've talked about tennis, big tennis fan. And it's that book is a little depressing at the beginning, but it's overall a great read.
Okay, yeah, I've heard bits and pieces, and I've heard it's really good, but also I've heard about the depressing part, and it's like, okay, I don't know if I want to because he was my favorite player growing up, so I'm a little concerned that it's gonna get
Yeah,
scary for me.
I think it's a good reminder that, it's it's a tough life that a lot of these people who we admire and, see on the screen and everything. It's a tough life that they live sometimes.
Okay, so what's your number 4 favorite memoir?
Number 4, I will say The Hard Thing About Hard Things. It is a great memoir by Ben Horowitz, who's, well known as a venture capitalist of Andreessen Horowitz. And he talks about his time as an entrepreneur. So it's more of a business book as well. Um, and I think during my time as a founder, it was amazing to just hear this context and story of somebody who's been through it. And I think he does a great job of just telling it like it is and talking about how tough some of the things that he's gone through are.
Okay, now it's number 3.
All right, I'm going to have to think about this one a little bit because I've already
I-
dug into my top 3 and I don't have another
I
one.
was gonna say you can't. And now it's got to be better than the other 2.
I know. It's tough. Okay, so yeah, my number 3 would be Bossy Pants. I recently reread it after I had my baby, and I think that one is a fantastic, just hilarious, fun read of a badass woman who's had a really interesting career, who's balanced family and all of that stuff, and that definitely really resonated with me over the past year as I've started my family.
Good. All right, now we got to go to the ones that are better than even that one. So number 2.
Number 2, Educated. So this is the story of a woman who sort of grows up off the grid, doesn't have a social security number, her family doesn't believe in medicine, doesn't go to school, and it's this absolutely fascinating story of how she grows up and kind of learns about society. It's wild, and there are some crazy things that happen in her life, but such a good, fascinating read.
That one does sound interesting. Like when you learn about everyone else having some of these things.
Exactly.
That
It's
seems-
wild.
that
She
seems
talks about
wild.
the first time that she has like cold medicine and it's amazing. So it's just fascinating.
Interesting. All right, number 1 memoir of all time is.
Number 1, I would have to say Barbarian Days. So this is a surf memoir. It's written by this person who is a journalist by training, but he just has a passion for surfing. He grows up in Southern California and Hawaii. He travels around the world in his early 20s and just goes on all kinds of misadventures while surfing. It's so good it won a Pulitzer Prize. And it's just, even if you're not a surfer, it's such a fantastic read. I happened to read it while I was learning to surf, which is great motivation because learning to surf can be pretty tough. And then
Yeah.
I could go back to this book and get some inspiration.
Good. So was that provided to you by your husband? And
Of
it's like,
course, it was recommended by my husband. He was really playing the long game here.
I was gonna say this guy seems like a good persuader and motivator.
That's right.
All right. Before we get into the 5 important questions, let's take another little break.
5 important questions. 5 important questions? 5 important questions.
What would you say is your greatest success in life? You've had a lot
My
of fun.
marriage. Yeah, I would say that relationship is what I'm proudest of, and I think I did a great job in snagging this guy, even if he's really been playing me the whole time. So.
I was going to say, he seems pretty cool.
Thank you.
What is your greatest fear?
Let's see. Would something about, I don't know, to put it viscerally, something like losing my legs or something, where I would lose a lot of agency and mobility. I think that would be tough.
Yeah, and it definitely makes surfing even harder.
That's right.
If you could tell first day at Record360 Abby one piece of advice, what would you tell her?
I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned, which I guess is very similar, is it really is all about the people. And I think I'm somebody who comes in and wants to analyze everything, and that's how my mind works. But at the end of the day, it's really just all about having the right people and trusting them and building great relationships and all of that.
All right, so you feel like you got the right people?
I think so.
All right, good. It would be really awkward to reveal. No, we definitely don't have. What's your most embarrassing moment? As we'll say, you guys go by recorders at Record360. Do you guys have?
We don't have a noun for our team members.
Well, you're recorders now. So, what's your most embarrassing moment as a recorder?
I think maybe I just hate getting embarrassed, so I don't have too many. I think the thing that comes to mind is showed up at a trade show without my makeup bag and just had to run a quick secret mission to Sephora before I could see anyone on the team.
Okay. But you still were able to be there on time and
I figured
still
it
took
out.
care of everything.
Yeah, I really hustled though.
Okay, so that didn't even get to become an embarrassing moment because you were so prepared. But I'm sorry you've been sentenced to death anyway, because showing up just without makeup is now a capital offense. Sorry about that. But what's your last meal and why?
Sushi, assuming that they can do it well.
Well, let's pretend that they're going to make a good version of whatever for your last meal.
It would have to be sushi because that's delicious and it's going to be on, the jail's or the prison's dime. So sounds great.
All right. Are you going to have any beverages or desserts with this?
I mean, I'll take some green tea mochi at the end. That sounds pretty good.
Okay. That sounds healthy, relatively. If you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
Interesting.
It's like an instant change. Not I can gradually over time get better at things.
Oh, I would be perfectly fluent in Chinese. Yeah. So I can speak basic Mandarin. My parents immigrated from China, but I was born in the US. And so my Chinese is good enough to kind of get by, but I'm far from fluent. And I certainly couldn't tell you, hey, Record360 is a software product or like any of those types of things. So I would just be perfectly fluent in Chinese.
Okay, so now I have to ask, like, when you were growing up, was it a case of like, no, you're going to learn English and we're not teaching you the Chinese, or was it a case of you did have that?
It was a little bit of both. So I did go to Chinese school growing up, but absolutely hated it. It was just so not fun, and it was on Saturdays, and
That's setting you up to hate it.
Exactly. And so we did speak Chinese at home, and I had grandparents with me who spoke Chinese, but of course, we lived in the U.S., and so we were speaking English outside, and both of my parents, worked, and so they were speaking English and everything. And so at some point, English just became so much easier than Chinese.
Yeah. Why are we doing this?
Yeah,
we all speak this other language. Okay, if you could change one thing at Record360 or Point of Rental, what would it be? Now Record360 is part of Point of Rental, so you can change things at all of Point of Rental if you want.
Yeah. You mean besides moving the headquarters to California?
Again, like a snap change.
What's that? What would I change about Record360? I would say maybe I would give the Point of Rental and Record360 team, I should have thought more about this question.
I was going to say the challenge. It's a challenging question because it's like there's a lot of things that I know we're going to be building over time, and it's like we're looking forward a little bit to that process. But that's why it's like this is a snap change. You could get there immediately. Is there anything that you would just immediately do? We'll also probably just edit this question out. So
I think that I would just want everyone at Record360 and Point of Rental to kind of know each other. Like, that's something that takes a lot of time. But it'd be real. Like, I think at Point of Rental, my read is you guys really feel like a family. You operate like a family. You know, it's just really warm and awesome. And I think similarly at Record360, we definitely have that vibe. And I think we're in a phase now of kind of filling each other out, getting to know each other. It's all good, but like it takes time. And so, yeah, one big happy family. That'd be my wish.
It's a lot of one-on-one conversations when you have hundreds of people.
It takes time. Yeah, it takes a lot of time.
Okay, what is your spirit spice?
I'm not a great chef, and so I really don't know spices. So
Most people don't.
I'm gonna have to restrict myself to salt, and I'm gonna rationalize that by saying, you know, I just want to bring out the best in people, sweet or savory.
All right, that's a good answer. Tell me a secret about Record360. Let's say, unless you know a secret about Point of Rental already.
Not quite a secret, but something that you probably don't know. Record360 built on blockchain.
Interesting.
I
did not know that.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. All right. What's something, whether relating to your software or not, that you could teach a 3 to 5 minute class about?
So I don't know if that I'm qualified to teach anything about software, but let's see. 2 years ago, I tried to teach a team the 2-second t-shirt fold, and I failed miserably at that. So I'm going to lower the stakes this time, and I would love to teach you guys a 2-second sock fold, which is even more straightforward.
Okay, so when you're talking about the 2-second t-shirt fold, you can do it well within 2 seconds. You were just not able to get other people to?
That's right.
Okay, well, we'll set up that video recording. I would like to see this. I'd like to see the fold all of your stuff within 2 seconds.
I would say I can definitely do the sock thing in 2 seconds. The t-shirt, sometimes you got to shake it out a little, so maybe give me 5 up to 10 seconds if it's real.
Yeah, it doesn't count if it's like 10 seconds. You can fold it normally within 10 seconds. Okay, so also work on a pants fold that takes 2 seconds, and then you'll have like a full set of clothes no matter what you want to fold within 2 seconds.
There you go.
All right. Well, thank you, Abby, for chatting today.
It was great to chat.
Good. Thank you to Andrew Sherrington and Daria Tucker for the work behind the scenes on these podcasts. To everyone that made it to this point with us, thank you for watching today. Rate, subscribe, review, share this with a friend. Allow me to keep talking with people like Abby. We'll keep the porch light burning for you.